He's the guy running the Crack Me If You Can competition at .com. And we also have Dale from Quality with it. And they are doing this one talk. Another talk that I'm really looking forward to. Rick is a great guy, good speaker, and again, no pressure, take it away, Rick.
Yes, hello everyone, my name is Rick. You can call me Minga. Like I said, we run Crack Me If You Can. So in the past, I've given a lot of talks about password complexity, about better ways to crack passwords, the kinds of things that are done in the enterprise world, and how to actually go at them. And part of the deal with the contest is every year I have to come up with a new thing that I think password crackers can't do, or that there's a skill that I think they should have, or a skill that I think they should know and or be able to do. And so every year there's something different, et cetera, and there's a big trick this year, which I will not be telling you. So anyways, so what we are going to talk about is I actually do password recovery for a living. It is what I do. And the example I'm going to talk about today is a single company of certain size that has multiple domains, and we audit their passwords every week. So, as password crackers, we're used to password cracking. Oh yeah, I got LinkedIn, and I'm up to 97.8% cracked. And that's fine and dandy. But what would you do if you got a crack or a hash dump the next week? What would you do? And how often, as password crackers or password researchers, do we ever get that opportunity? Well, eHarmony was hacked twice, and last.fm had their stuff leaked twice, multiple years apart, so that was cool. But the enterprise is different. Enterprises, theoretically, there's password complexity that makes everything safer. Of course, it doesn't, But, so, that's what we're here to talk about. So literally, I'm not going to show you any new skills. I just kind of want to show you and start thinking about, I'm a password cracker, that's what I do in my free time. And that's what I do for a living. And so, but as you start to get a feel for what if you got the exact same dump every week where a certain percentage of the password users have changed their passwords. So if they have a 90-day password recycle, that means 100% of the users have changed their password. So what is your crack percentage going to do? Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? What's going to diversify, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of what we're talking about. So for these weekly audits, we pretty much use the same set of words, the same set of rules, the same sort of A3 or topologies, patterns. We also do a complete 8-character brute force. This is NTLM, I forgot to mention. And give or take 48 hours on 10 GPUs. 7970s or 280Xs, I'm random, I'm sort of flubbing the numbers here on purpose to not reveal things. So, and like I said, it's the same domains every week, okay? So that's what we're talking about. So how do we, and I'm going to be a little vague here, just kind of bear with me. So how do we do it? Well, we get the NTIS DIT, which is where this is from the domain controller, the file where the hashes are. We securely obtain that. We securely extract that. We get the hashes, the NTLN, the NTLNs, the LNs. We dedupe. We remove the ones we've already cracked previously because why do the math? That doesn't matter too much. Send the hashes to our grid of GPU machines. Obviously, they're not EC2 Amazon machines. They're privately run, privately owned, privately managed. So anyways, while that's going on, you actually take the NTDS.dat and you build a database. Just a standard old database, just like you're used to, SQLite, MySQL, whatever it's going to be. Access database, whatever. You build that database of everything that's in there, every group membership, every age of every password, every failed password try, the last time an account was used, etc. You have all that information in a database that you can easily access. You then, when the jobs are done, your cracks are done, you put those cracks back in the database. Now you have a full database where you could do things like, this is just made up pseudocode. Select star from users where the privilege is admin and the password is bigger than 90 days. Select star from users or select password from users or whatever, where the password equals whatever the most common password is. And there's another select query that goes and it tells you what's the most common password, how many users have it, of those 400 users that have this exact same password, how many of those are active and how many of those are unactive? Enabled or disenabled? Not enabled. Absolutely. So you can see everything's in your hand. You've done the job, but now you can do anything you want with the data. Okay? So sort of, and what this leads into is why do this? Okay? So this is the enterprise. These are, Fortune X-size companies trying to protect their own assets. And so, like, literally, these passwords, this is not some theoretical risk. If your Fortune X-size company has a VPN that's just protected by login and password, that's not theoretical. It's literally if a certain X amount of your users right now are using summer 15, exclamation point, because it's a length 8, got upper lower special digits, and it's bigger than 8. If a certain amount of, that's not a theoretical risk. That is a real risk, right? So we need to know these things, okay? As opposed to things. So another thing is, it's like metrics. Metrics are boring. Your crack percentage and blah, blah, blah. I'm daily keeping track of what percentage of what domains I've cracked because, like Bert said, I get an extra one crack and I'm like, yeah, I got one more. And, who cares? I care. I got one more, And so, but like executives, management, they're going to want to see metrics. So in other words, people are paying money. People are paying money for security projects. People are paying money for consultants like me to come into Fortune X-size companies and to fix things. Is it working? They got no clue, okay? They need a way to track, are things even improving, yay or nay? Or what we're doing, is this good or bad, okay? And so we're able to generate that on a weekly basis, long terms, okay? Just like big enterprises, they'll pay $1 million for Nessus, not Nessus doesn't cost $1 million, for vulnerability scanners, and the whole point of it is literally to say, how many high risks do we have this month? They can be theoretical, made up, who cares risks. But it's how many high risks. It's like, we have 400 this month, we have 500 this month. Our security's better. And that's a metric. Like, hey, we're showing improvement. Give the security guy a raise. It's just a metric. They're just using some random number from some random tool to find out if they're improving the security. Well, this isn't just random numbers. It's real, The passwords are being used. They're not arbitrary vulnerabilities. Now, obviously, I'm a password nerd, so that's my opinion. I just happen to know it's right. And obviously, the secondary goal, or to me, the primary goal, is actually fix things. Like, hey, ding dong, 15% of your users use summer 14. You should go and hit them, and then 3 months later, let's do it again. And oh, by the way, if your users pick a different season, you should hit them again. I mean, it's to actually fix things. It's not just a metric of, we've improved password complexity by 10% this week. Yay! But it's literally like, no, we had this certain set of users and they were morons because they're users, and we hit them with a bat. And we fix things, okay? And so literally, it's to actually fix things. But there's other sort of things, and this is, I didn't say, but I'm a penetration tester. I mean, my job is to break in and steal things, only in khakis. So it's the other thing you get out of this is to find actual risk. This goes to one of the questions before, but find, you have a regular, you have a user who's an admin who has 2 accounts. Their regular one, they read email, and their admin account, they use the same password on both accounts. Surely, if you had 40 domain admins, 10% of them wouldn't do that, right? Right? I run into it constantly. Default help desk patterns or the default help desk passwords. Which administrators are not rotating users. I'm a domain admin. I got to change my password. I'm a domain admin. I can log in and do whatever I want. I'll change my password. You know what I do? I go right back in and change it to the one I can remember. And then I can go into, you get the NTDIS, you get the last 12 passwords. You know what you see? You see the same damn password 12 times in a row. Because an administrator isn't following their own policy. They're going back and being like, that's fine. I got a good password. It's horse, battery, staple, cat, whatever. So, but then also, account management of there's no way to go to your administrators and be like, hey, how do you really manage your accounts? Like, what is how do you really do it? And they're just, like if they're Unix If they're like a Unix admin, they have a beard, and they're just going to rub their beard and be like, "You're not worthy for me to tell you." If they're a Windows admin, they have a beanie on, and they're not going to, they're not really going to tell you what they set the default password for. Okay, and maybe they will, but well, let's go look at it. Let's go see what's really done. Okay. Okay, so that's just the introduction. All that's really about this graph. I flubbed some of the numbers in these. The percentages are always what they always are, but this is. If I didn't say it, this is real. Okay, this is not theoretical. This is not made up. This is not RockU. This is not LinkedIn. This is a real enterprise. Okay, so the numbers have kind of been changed, so you can't sort of know what size and the names of it, things like that. So something else that's not shown is that the amount of administrative users whose password cracked. So the very first time we ran it, we cracked 4 to the administrators, and at the tail end we cracked 16. Yeah, that's not shown, but it'll be relevant in a second. Okay, so these are pretty easy to kind of understand. You don't have to read the numbers or anything. So total amount of accounts. So this is every bar is a week. So this is 6 months of 30 weeks worth of data. Okay, so you can see their total amount of accounts is slowly growing. It's rotating around 10K. Okay, all right. You don't just remember that. Here are the total number of disabled accounts. It's somewhere in the 5,500 range. So of their 10,000 accounts, 5,500 are disabled. Okay, well the inverse of that, or the opposite of that, is obviously the total number of enabled accounts. Okay, so I'm just laying the ground base here. So they have approximately 4,200, and as you see, as it goes over time, they're getting bigger. They have more and more enabled accounts. Okay, these are the total number of cracks from this one domain that's approximately 10,000 people. So what happened? Well, 1 week came along, and all of a sudden the amount of cracks went from the upper 8,000s down to 4,000, and it was relatively stagnant, plus or minus a few hundred. Okay, so we saw this data and immediately like, whoa, something bad's happening. Well, this is the amount of disabled accounts. So these are accounts that have passwords. They're in the Active Directory, but they're actively disabled. Okay, and they had, and these are how many of those accounts did we crack? Okay, so all of a sudden this week, right here. So what happened this week? We know they didn't remove any of these accounts. They just simply changed their password. Okay? So now you can say, oh, well, they've improved their risk, or they've minimized their risk some because they had all these disabled accounts. They could get accidentally enabled, and now they've made their passwords uncrackable. This is the statistics of their enabled accounts. So they're real users who are actively using it, and you can see it's floating around 3,400, 3,500 range. So you kind of get a feel for this is where I was hoping to see it going down. I mean, you think about, if you were to get this data every week, what would you do? I'd email everyone who had their things. I'd say, hey, guess what? Your password sucks. Here are tips for how to change it. I've actually been to places where once every 3 months, that for the administrators, they had a pizza party for everyone whose passwords didn't crack. That is an incredibly effective way to make people choose better passwords. Because guess who's going to come back from the lunch and be like, I got pizza, you didn't. Your password sucks. And it's meanwhile I spent $4 on Domino's. So going on, this are the percentages of 8, 9, 10, 11 character passwords. Okay, so. Once again, what happened here? So we know at this particular week, the amount all these disabled accounts had their passwords changed. Okay? Well, immediately you see the 8s drop, and then are pretty flat. But you'll notice it's slightly going up. So we've gotten back down to baseline, and our users, as we grow in users ever so slightly, the length of 8-character passwords is growing over time. Okay? The same kind of with 9. You can see right at this magic 9 character here in the red, and it's unfortunately slowly going down. Which is not my ideal because I'm the one providing them this service and I want them to. And you can also see 10, 11, 12 is pretty stagnant. And then obviously there's 10% or 15% that I didn't crack. So it's, so over time, we're talking about metrics, we're talking about improvement, and I can see long term, they have definitely fixed some things, but there's some other things going on. These are the most popular passwords, like actual, and so I've gone and sanitized them. So, this is the most common password at this particular place. And in this case, almost 500 people of approximately, 9,000 or 10,000, whatever I put in there, use this password, whatever the password was. Maybe it was the name of the company followed by 1, 2, 3 exclamation point. I honestly do not know what it was. So you can see that 1 week that they disabled all that stuff, oh boy, we sure did lose a lot. Over about 100 accounts used that password. But then as time went over, it kept going up, reached a peak, and then shot back down again. So theoretically, something happened here that is good, that is positive. This is a metric. Someone did something here, someone should be rewarded, whether it's an administrator or things like that. And you can see these are the other ones. And so these are all, these are the 15 most popular passwords. And you can see the other ones, there's a whole other different scale down here. Oh, Christ. Okay. Okay, so we've gone through that, right? So that's one domain. This place has other domains, okay? And I'm gonna blast through these. So, total number of accounts for their secondary domain, it's a lot smaller, 600, 700. You can see, it's slowly increasing. Amount of disabled accounts, it's 300 to 400, so it's the same thing, 50%. Okay? Now, is having this many disabled accounts in your domain, is that a risk in and of itself? I don't have an answer to that. Okay? I'm going to start closing these. Okay, total number of accounts, total discipline accounts. Okay, so number of enabled accounts, we're at roughly 250. Kind of keep that in mind. So, the number of cracks. So these are the number of successful cracks for this domain of approximately 600 700 accounts. And you can see there is no drastic improvement any particular week. Now you can see an occasional drop at a certain time. Now maybe this is a 3-month window. Maybe there's a password change window that happens to occur at a certain point. I do not know. But do you think that this subdomain has done anything to actively improve or mitigate any of their password things? No. Okay, maybe it's a subsidiary, maybe it's a region, whatever. This is the amount of disabled accounts that had their password cracked. Now, still had a few dips, but you can see for all the disabled accounts, they didn't do anything about those. Okay? Those are the enabled, so this place, the enabled accounts, so roughly 200 increases a little bit over time. So overall, long term, they're not improving. Okay? And then percentages, here we go. So this other domain, look at their 8 characters. We're talking almost 70, we're talking 65% of theirs, and it stays there. So it's not like some random fluke. It's literally staying there. So what's the bare minimum? It's 8 characters, upper, low, special digit. The password policy will protect us, and then bam, what percentage of the users use it? It's this many ding dongs. Okay, so I'm bad-mouthing this second location. These are the most common passwords. This one in particular, for whatever it is, 1 week happened, and it dropped off the face of the earth. Okay, and you can see and what you can't really see is this color. It pops back up for just a few weeks, and then it disappears again. So these are all sort of things. I'm bad-mouthing this domain because of crackability and things like that, but you can see there are things being done. So in this case, if this was a subsidiary or another division or things, there are things to track there we can actually use as a metric. Okay, so domain 3, just real quick. Number of accounts are roughly 2,500. You can see it slowly increases. Number of disabled accounts, it goes down, goes back up. It's a large amount of disabled accounts, which is that same problem. A number of enabled accounts floats around 1,400, give or take. The amount of disabled accounts that had their password cracked. Okay? So we had roughly 1,200, and then bang, we dropped that down. So this domain did go through we have all these disabled accounts for people who left the business. We're not going to delete them because they can break things. Let's just change the password to something that's not, summer 14, whatever it was. And it went down, and then you can see it slowly increasing again because more and more accounts are getting disabled but not having their password changed. So it's sort of like a temporary fix. That was the quickest 5 minutes ever. So, enabled accounts. So of the enabled accounts, you can see that they fluctuated a little bit, but for the most part, there hasn't been some drastic improvement where we have not been able to constantly crack their passwords. The percentages of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it did have a nice, interesting bump where things went up, and then the percentages of 8 and 9 actually switched. That's good. I mean, I'm glad we have less 8s and more 9s, but then, back over time, here's 9, it's going down. It's just slowly going down. How long is this trend going to go versus the 8-character passwords, and this is week by week by week by week for 3 months. It's slowly going up. And then 10, 11, 12 are stagnant as can be. So these are the same, you know, Unix weenies and Windows nerds with their long passwords, and they're saying stagnant, okay? Now, the same thing is the most common password. So this domain, they've done some things, but haven't done much, but this is the same things where you have one password that's used by 280 users, and it's slowly been decreasing the amount of users that are using this one individual password. So this is actually really, it shows progress. It shows that they've identified, you know, in the reports, every week they get a list of every account. Here's the accounts that are using this password. Go slap these people, okay? And you can see they're actually doing it. So this is actually minimizing their risk on a level that you can actually see. And eventually, I'd like to see these all down here. And for the scale of this to be between 0 and 10. Okay? And you can do things like to actually prevent that. That's literally it. That's all I have. It's just presenting. I have access to a unique set of data in that you're cracking the same thing every week, and you can see progress, you can see whatever the opposite of progress is, or stagnation. You can see that some of these subdomains, or whatever we're terminology-wise calling it, you can see that some of them improve, some of them don't. We can have the exact same data based purely on administrative. Okay, if a place has 100 domain admins or 40 domain admins, I'd like to see theirs improve especially. Okay, and sure enough, you go in there, a place will have 40 domain admins, 30 of them have 12-character passwords. And the other 10 will have 8-character passwords that haven't been changed in years, and they're hard-coded in shell scripts, which is the kind of things you find during pen tests, but you can also find it with this. And then as those are fixed, you literally have a graph that shows, oh, our risk is getting smaller and smaller and smaller over time. So that's literally it. I just kind of wanted to show an example of kind of things that, you know, and like I said at the beginning, I mean, this is all in the database. So any sort of situation you can think of, you know, because all the database is in there, you can just do a select star and get the data and graph it or do whatever. Question, I have 2 minutes.
What are some of the strategies that you've seen places use that brought those dramatic drops?
Right, what were some of the strategies used to diminish risk? It's literally almost all the time. Like, I mean, there's all sorts of little things you can do, increasing the length to 9, training. Another client I'm not going to talk about, but I mean, it's funny, when you call the help desk, they say, here's your random password, you have to change it, but the system will not let you choose years, cities, months, or seasons, and they tell people that on the phone, like, do you understand? Hey, the system totally lets you do that. You could totally use September 15th, but they've added one line to their script, and guess what? Their percentages are doing.
Have you ever thought about putting out your top 10 dictionary passwords?
The question was, have you ever thought about putting out your top 10? That's what Crack Me If You Can was in 2010. Here's everything. Here, it's free. So.
But no, I'm saying to the organization.
Yeah,
what we're seeing is the top 10, and just keep doing that until everybody figures it out.
That's exactly what this is. Every week they get their top 5.
Oh, okay.
Every week the list of users, go slap these users, and then we put it into a pretty graph. There's a question back there. I probably have 1 minute.
Okay, very quickly, 2 questions. First, it looks like you use a number of cracked users as your main metric, and what I can see from the graphs that did not change much over time. Not change much over time because it's your personal assessment, it's your password cracker really good, and you can beat whatever the users can do. Or did the company not do a good enough job in improving the situation?
Okay, let me answer that one first. The question was, overall, the amount of cracks I had week by week didn't really decrease in time, and you're right. And the reason that why is in TLM, where did Microsoft guy go? You know, yeah, their minimum was 8 character, and I can brute force 8 character in TLM in the amount of time allotted. So yes, if they immediately dumped, it made the minimum 9 character, I cannot brute force 9 character in 10 hours. Jeremy can, wherever he is, you know. That is because if this was $1 or Unix side, I would not be able to brute force 10 character if they didn't use the common like pathwell topologies.
So your password cracker is so good that you were able to crack nearly everyone. The second question, given that this is the case, do you have a better metric that would actually assess how well the company is doing, and what should other companies
Your question was, you know, what other metrics are there? Yeah, we're done, by the way, feel free to leave. Yeah, that's why we presented everything, because there are areas where there definitely were improvement. The amount of shared password is a metric, the amount of cracks is a metric, the average length is a metric. They're all little metrics. I don't know what the best one is. Besides, nobody fixes anything anyway, so fix something. I'd love to see it.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Next talk in 5 minutes. It's Monty.